Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Helen Edmonson, a multi award winning author, intuition mentor, and spiritual guide. After a profound spiritual awakening in 2013, Helen left behind a career as a senior government executive to devote her life to helping others reconnect with their wisdom, purpose, and authenticity. She is the author of A Place of Love and Light and founder of Highly Intuitive Kids, a community supporting parents raising intuitive children. Helen, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
All right, so same here actually. And Helen, can you take us back right to when you were younger, basically? What was your 20s like? And, what did you imagine your future would look like?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. I go back to my 20s and I think back, just the newness of everything, just
Mhm.
trying to figure it all out. That's what, your 20s are really all about. I was let's take you back. Let me tell you a little story of, I was actually the first person in the history of my family to graduate from college. So I went to college. I'm a first generation graduate. And
Mm.
with that, it brought a lot of expectations and hopes and, dreams, not only for myself, but that I had from my family and from others on me of wanting to succeed. So through my 20s, I was just trying to, figure out what was my next step, what was I going to do. And I went into business, went into the federal government here in the United States. That's where I am. And I rose up the ladder through my 20s. I was like, what do I want to do? And how do I want to do this? So I came in as a frontline worker. But throughout my 20s, I knew I had some goals. And I wanted to get into management and I wanted to make a difference. And so through my 20s, I was working and, putting in the time to rise up the ladder, and become successful. As a lot of people in their 20s are stepping into that space of choosing careers and dating and marriage and, just what's next for them. And I was in that stage too, but I knew I wanted to go into management. And so I did that. And so my 20s were spent figuring all of that out. But, as I get later, into my career, and I actually became a senior executive at the age of 36, which was something unusual here because most people don't hit that until they're 50. Um, but through it all, that was what was driving me and just trying to figure it out. And I realized just gathering and learning and taking in as many experiences as I could.
Mm. Wow. All right. So thank you for, sharing your story with us actually. And your 20s is so relatable because I feel like a lot of young adults today are also trying to figure it out, right? And yeah, I was thinking, right, was there a moment when maybe not your 20s, but when you were much more younger, was there a moment you felt like you ignored your intuition?
Oh yes, that
Mm.
definitely I can share that with you because that's what takes me
Yeah.
to where I rose up the ladder and I was putting a lot of time and effort. I was traveling. I had become a senior executive at 36, so I was pretty young
Mm.
still for that to happen. And I'm, making a lot of money and prestige and all these things, traveling all over the US, dealing with
Mm.
executives, the whole thing. But just inside, I didn't feel like I was aligned with what was best for me. I was striving, I was achieving, I was doing all these great things, but I wasn't doing what really made me happy. I wasn't really fulfilling what felt right for me. So when I got to the age of 36, I wasn't listening to my intuition, wasn't listening to what was really my inner truth. And so when I got to the age of 36 and I had all of this, accumulated all this success and all these things, and I had houses and cars, I had all this. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't
Mm.
feel right. It doesn't feel like me, like
Mm.
I'm not in the right place. Outwardly, externally, everybody's thinking, oh, she's doing great and all this wonderful. But I couldn't, one morning I got up and I looked in the mirror and I was just like, I just feel like I'm selling out my soul because this doesn't feel right for me. And I quit my job. I just walked away from a 6-digit salary, prestige, and all these things because I said this was not aligned with me. And that's when I started really paying attention to what felt right and what was I meant to do. And I got quiet and started turning inward to listen more to that inner voice and how it was starting to guide me. And that was my first wake up call.
Oh, oof. All right. So yes, thank you, Ellen. I'd like to say that that's such decisions are really tough, honestly, and it takes a strong person to make such decision. I mean, walking away from a life that seems good to people outside, right? Because people are actually dying to get that kind of life. People are people want it, right? But then you just realize within yourself that this is probably not what you want. So it takes a lot of resilience and strength to be able to walk away and go for what you actually want. Right. So yes, can you tell us what happened after you decided to, go? Was the journey smooth, in your quest for something that makes you happy? Was the journey smooth and easy for you?
Oh, not at all. Not at all. And I think that's something that as you're moving through life, and like you said, walking away was hard, but I knew there was something more. I wasn't fully tapped into what I was meant to do. And it wasn't easy at all. It was still, that sent me on a journey of still trying to figure it out because when I walked away, I had worked so much and put in so many hours and focused on my career that I hadn't looked at the other side of my life I wanted to fulfill, which was to get married and have a family. And so it was at that point that I said, that was some of the something more that I was being called to. And the hours I was working, what I was doing was never going to get me that whole life that I wanted to have. And so actually, when I quit my job, it was, I had just met who's now my husband, and just met him a little bit before then. I will share. I met him on Match.com. So I did do a dating service because I was working so many hours, and I was like, but I felt called to just develop that side of my personal life. But it was from there until I did get married and until I had my son 4 years after my husband and I did get married. It was, I didn't know what was next. I got married and went on to start my family. There was still a part of me that knew there was something more just for me because no matter you can connect with someone else and start a family, but you're still your own person. And I would offer that to anybody is don't lose sight of that and what's calling you forward. But I went through during that time, I was able to help and care for my mother who was sick and she passed away 3 months after my son was born. So that was a huge transition for me. My mother and I were really close. And so I was a caregiver at one point. I became a wife, I became a mother, left my job. I had all these ups and downs. I lost my father in law and mother in law. There were all these challenges that were going on. But I knew as I am now even looking back on it, I always say life is lived. You understand things the older you get and you look back on it, that everything that you go through, even the challenges or the good times, are actually growing you forward into learning how to be your best self. Learning how to listen and trust yourself more, learning how to love yourself more. That's all those lessons that you get. So it wasn't easy at all, but I learned lessons through it all that helped me move me to the next step of life because I had to get quiet and listen inward, see what was true for me and how I wanted to step forward.
All right. So yes, thank you, Helen. Personally, I'd like to say I'm learning from your story as well, to, trust your instincts, trust your intuition, and listen to your inner voice, right? If your mind or your spirit just tells you that there is more for you, right? Do not doubt it, right? Don't doubt. Just, deep down there's more for you. Go out there and do what it takes to get that light, get it to shine, basically, right? Thank you, Helen. And, I want us to dive into what you're doing now, basically, right? So for someone in their 20s who feel lost, or should I say disconnected, right? Where do they actually begin?
Where do they actually begin? I would tell people is just know that, just take the next step. When you're feeling lost or
Mm.
disconnected, just take the next step. You can't get it wrong because everything that you do, you're learning and growing from it. I always say it's like you're throwing tools in your life back. You're learning from it and you're growing from it. The big key thing that I would suggest for anybody is that you got to get quiet and you got to check in with yourself. And you have to learn to listen to what's true for you. Because we're in a world now where you have social media and you have, this distraction, that distraction. You have so many things competing for your attention and your time. You have expectations, of your own expectations for yourself, or you have family expectations, parental expectations, job expectations, all of these and responsibilities, all these things competing for your attention at any time. But what you have to do is quiet the noise and really take time to turn inward. And that's one of the things I learned. It was a big lesson for me. And it was taking the time to get in, reconnect with my inner truth, reconnect with what felt true for me. Now, everyone around you may not always understand what that may look like as you start walking that you take the step that feels right in alignment for you. Not everybody may understand it. They don't have to. It's your journey. This is your path. And so you have to own it. You have to be true to yourself and be authentic with yourself. So when things feel uncertain, I say just don't be afraid to take the next step. You can't fail. You only learn and you only grow. And when you start understanding what feels right in alignment for you and what doesn't, and you continually walk toward what feels right for you, and trust yourself. That's the big key: is learning to trust that you know what's best for you, and kind of close out the noise telling you otherwise.
Oh, like you said, trust yourself and connect with your inner truth, right? Shut out the noise, connect with your inner truth. Whatever decision it is you're making, make sure it is what you genuinely want for yourself, right? Without external validation. It should be what you want for yourself. Okay, so Helen, I'm actually learning a lot. I'm learning so much that I think I'm going to be applying in my own life, basically. So yes, thank you, Erlyn. And also, you through your work with highly intuitive kids, right? What have children taught you about life and authenticity?
Oh, wow. That's a wonderful question. What have children taught me? So much. Children are just a wealth of knowledge and truth and so much wisdom. It's just if we listen and pay attention to what they have to offer. And I have a story I always love to share because this is one, I'm a very intuitive person. And that's
Mm,
how I moved up the ladder. And that's how I just run my life is by getting quiet and listening and letting what comes up for me help guide me. But my son is also, he's a very intuitive, gifted person in that way. And he's 16 now. But back when he was 8 years old, one day he came home, he was getting bullied at school because he's very advanced for his age and he thinks, more mature than his age group. So he was trying to talk to the kids at 8 years old about some things that it was just, they didn't understand. So they were telling him he was
mm,
weird and all those things they kids say to each other. So he came home and he was a little bit down on himself. And I am a very intuitive person. I was doing work, doing intuitive guidance sessions, reading some things for people and helping them in that way. But I wasn't letting everybody know that because me having these heightened sensitivities, and he does too, but I didn't want people to think that I was weird for my gifts that I had. And I want
mm,
to let everybody know if you have unique gifts, don't bury them, don't hide them, don't be shy away from them. You were given them for a reason, and you're giving them to
mm,
share with the world in the way that you're meant to share it, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Someone's going to benefit from your unique perspective and the gifts that you have. Well, I was quietly just doing things on the side and not really out there telling people about my gifts and how I use them. Well, my son looked at me when I'm trying to tell him to be proud of himself and don't be down on himself about it. He looked at me at 8 years old and he said, Mom, I can't be me until you be you. Stop hiding.
mm.
Wow.
Wow.
You know, our children, youth, young, even the 20s, you all have a
Mm,
wisdom that sometimes adults disconnect from. And we have to start tuning in and really listening. And in that moment, what I heard from my son was telling me, I need you to role model. I need you to be authentic. I need you to step forward and live your truth because I can't live my truth unless you live your truth.
Mm,
And so I took that in. And when he said that to me, I was like, wow. And be honest, it changed everything for me, the trajectory of my life. Because I said, you know what? I have to be the model my son needs and those around me need. So I stepped out publicly and started doing my work. And it resulted in my book. It resulted in me working with people. I started getting a lot of folks hearing about me and on podcasts and working with the highly intuitive kids and people reaching out saying, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for stepping out there and making yourself vulnerable because I needed to hear that to help me to show up for my child or for myself differently. So there's always somebody's going to benefit from you showing up and sharing your light fully because it's needed. That's why we're all here at this time to be our authentic selves and really show up and shine for others to be able to see and learn from and grow from themselves.
oh, all right. So I'm still thinking of, the words your son said at 8 years old.
Oh, that's our highly intuitive kids are just children, period, are just so they're wise if we listen to them. They see right through to the truth and
Mm,
they're not afraid to speak it if they don't get shut down. And unfortunately, some of our children get shut down because sometimes
mm,
adults think they know more or the child doesn't know. But if you
mm.
listen, children are really wise. Young folks, 20 something, teens, you all are wise, wiser than you know, and we need to embrace that wisdom.
Oh, all right. So, wow. Should be a lesson to, parents out there too, right? Don't shut down your kids. I mean, they're also wise. And wow. Ooh. I don't think I was that wise when I was that age.
You know what? You probably were, just didn't realize it.
Probably. All right. So yes, thank you, Helen. I would say this has been amazing, honestly. And finally, I would like to ask about you, right? What legacy do you hope to leave behind, and what do you hope your work would do for people out there?
Oh, wow. The legacy I hope to leave is just the legacy of love and compassion,
Mm,
helping people to my messages of trusting yourself, listening to your inner guidance, because a lot of times we're looking external to ourselves for
mm,
answers, for meeting expectations, meeting obligations, but we have to turn inward. Life is really a journey of self-discovery, self-awareness, self-mastery. And when we can do those things, when we can really get to know ourselves and give ourselves that love and that compassion, whatever we do to help ourselves, it makes us better. And when it makes us better, we end up treating those around us better. And as we treat those around us better, we create that ripple effect that helps to change everything for everyone if we're showing up in that way. So my legacy is hopefully to leave a legacy of love and the message of the impact of the ripple effect that we all are interconnected and we all make things better for each other when we show up, love ourselves, we love others and spread out to each
mm.
other.
All right. So yes, thank you, Early. I would say this has been amazing, right? Because personally, I've learned a lot, and I believe my listeners will do the same as well, right? So thanks for sharing your story and your wisdom with us. And it brings me to the final segment of my podcast. I call it the rapid fire segment. You could either answer with a word or a phrase starting now. So, what is one word that describes your journey?
Love.
Mm. All right. So, what is a book that changed your life?
My book, A Place of Love and Light.
All right. And so are you a morning or a night owl?
Ooh, both. Just depends on when inspiration hits.
Okay. So, what is something you do to, reconnect with yourself?
Get quiet, sit in stillness. I go for a nature walk.
Mm, right. Okay. And finally, what brings you joy these days?
my son, my family.
Mm. All right. I mean, your song brings me joy too.
Because he's
All
still black.
right. Okay, Helen. So yes, thank you. And finally, before you go, where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
They can learn more about me at my website, helenedmondson.com, and they can connect with me there. And I do a free monthly workshop, which I invite anyone to come to, where we take 90 minutes and close out the noise around us.
Mm.
And we do some journaling. And I have to share these two quick questions because I think this is important, whether we meet again at a workshop or some information on my website, or just to have this piece of information, because I think this is so valuable to anybody of any age. Just take some time to quiet the noise around you, even if it's just give yourself 2 to 5 minutes each day. And then use these as check-in. One of the questions is, what is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now?
Mm.
Take that in. What is the most loving thing I can do for myself right now? That helps you to start turning inward and listening to your own voice. Get quiet, let whatever comes up come up, and then do that. And what is my soul whispering to me right now? And sit with those questions each day. And throughout the day, ask yourself those questions. And whatever come up for you, do it. Listen to it. Do it. That's how inspirations come through. That's how you start to hear that voice within you and your inner guidance and inner truth. You give space for it to come up. So yes, go to my website. I have a free monthly workshop where we do that. I have other offerings. I do coaching and mentoring, all different kinds of things. And anybody who is highly intuitive or has a highly intuitive child, there's also a website called highlyintuitivekids.com, which is also my own, where parents and people can learn about that. Younger folks can learn about that too, because we have those who have heightened sensitivity or heightened intuitiveness. You can find a lot of information there. So I welcome and always look forward to connecting anybody who wants to continue their journey with me.
All right. Wow. Okay. And I'm going to put the link in the show notes so it's easily accessible for listeners. Right. And talking about my listeners, I would say thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Ellen. Do you have a wonderful day ahead of you?
So much. I appreciate being here.
You're welcome. Take care.